بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إنكم في زمان من ترك منكم مشر ما أمر به هلك ثم يأتي زمان من عمل منكم عشر ما أمر به نجا أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Last week we had discussed this hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam very briefly, wherein Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam mentioned that to the Sahaba that you in such a zamana, you in such a time that if you have to leave out a tenth of what you have been commanded to do, then you will be destroyed. And a time will come in the ummah that a person, he makes amal and he acts on 1/10 of what he has been commanded to do, then that person will attain salvation, his work will be done. And we mentioned that this does not refer to quantity. Like if you have to read 20 rakats namaz a day, that is obligatory upon you, it doesn't mean 1/10, you read 2 rakats and that is sufficient for you. This refers to sifat. It refers to qualities. For example, a person is performing salah, he's supposed to attain 100% concentration. But in this day and age, if a person, he attains only 10% concentration also, it will suffice a person. And for Sahaba, if they lost 10% concentration, they will be destroyed. And Maulana Gangohi Rahmatullah Alayhi mentioned that although there are other views, he says this refers to ikhlas of a person. That in this time and age, if a person attains 10% ikhlas and 10% sincerity, he will attain salvation. And if Sahaba lost 10% ikhlas and 10% of their sincerity, Sahaba would have been destroyed. In the Quran Sharif, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala makes mention of the munafiqeen. On the last page of the 5th para, Allah Ta'ala mentions about the munafiqeen. Innal munafiqeen fi darkil asfali minan nar. That verily the munafiqeen, the hypocrites, they will be in the lowest depths of the fire of Jahannam. وَلَن تَجِدَ لَهُمْ نَصِيرًا. There will be no helpers for them. On the day of Qiyamah, there will be nobody that will be able to assist these munafiqeen and these hypocrites. But who will be protected from them? إِلَّا الَّذِينَ تَابُوا. Those munafiqeen that make tawbah from the nifaq, from the hypocrisy, they come firmly back onto iman. وَأَصْلَحُوا. They reform their matters, they rectify their matters. وَأَعْتَصَمُوا بِاللَّهِ. And they hold firmly onto Allah. And then Allah Ta'ala says, وَأَخْلَصُوا دِينَهُمْ لِلَّهِ. They make their deen purely for Allah Ta'ala. Their ibadat, everything is purely for Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Meaning they got ikhlas. فَأُولَٰئِكَ مَعَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. These will be with the mu'mineen and believers. Under this verse, Mufti Mohammed Shafi Saheb Rahmatullah Alayhi has written that what is meant, وَأَخْلَصُوا دِينَهُمْ لِلَّهِ, that their deen is purely for Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. He says, الَّذِي يَعْمَلُ لِلَّهِ لَا يُحِبُّ أَن يَحْمَدَهُ النَّاسُ عَلَيْهِ. That when a person, he makes amal, that amal that he does, that is purely and purely for Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And he does not love that anybody praises him on that action that he does. If a person gave charity, he doesn't become happy, he doesn't wait that somebody is going to praise me, and he becomes happy upon that. Whatever he done between me and my Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala must be happy with that action that I have carried out. The ulama have given concession in this day and age, that if a student becomes hafiz of the Quran, we have a little jalsa. What is the objective of that jalsa? The objective of the jalsa is that other students, other children, they will see this student has completed Quran Sharif. And they get encouragement from there that I also want to become hafiz of the Quran Sharif. The father, he looks at that student becoming hafiz of the Quran, the desire comes in his heart that I want to also make my child a hafiz of the Quran Sharif. So for this reason, the ulama have said that it is permissible that a person has a jalsa. But sometimes the ustad must complete the hifz of the Quran Sharif in the class also. Because many a time when the jalsa happens, now people wait, now praises are going to come. They're praising the child also, they're praising the parents also, they're praising the ustad also. And sometimes it can happen that the ikhlas of a person is lost. Shaitan knows exactly how to tackle every person. And when the ikhlas of a person is lost, all that effort that was put in so many years, all that effort is down the drain. As Abdul Hamid Sahib, down Barakatum, he mentioned once, he said that Hafiz Abdul Rahman Mia Sahib, Rahmatullah Alayhi, when he was teaching in Mia's farm, he says that most of the time, when Hafiz Sahib used to complete the children, when they would complete the hifz, there was no jalsa. He says in the class, like how the child when he's giving his sabak, the child would give his sabak, And in the sabak, that student will now complete his hifz, and that's it. That's the end of it. And now he's a hafiz for the rest of his life. And Hafiz Saheb had a passion for teaching Quran Sharif. He said, if Allah Ta'ala is to ask me in the qabr that what I want, he says, at that time I will say that, Allah, give me a hifz class in the qabr. So much of love he had for the Quran Sharif. So here also ikhlas is required when a student becomes hafiz of the Quran Sharif. A person has to be very particular. If he's having that jalsa, be very, very particular that this is done solely for the pleasure of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Today, many a time, a new masjid is built. And when the masjid is built, what do? Immediately we have the opening of a masjid. Whereas there is no such a thing as opening of the masjid. Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi has mentioned, he says, how does a place become a masjid? He says a person erected a masjid and he separated that piece of land from his land. For example, the land that is joining adjacent to it, that is also his land. He separated it, that this is my land and this land now belongs to the masjid. This is the masjid. And there must be a separate entrance to the masjid. You mustn't have an entrance from your land coming into the masjid. So you have a separate entrance that is going to the masjid. And then a person must make an announcement, he must make i'lan, that come and perform salah in the masjid. He says the moment the first person comes into the masjid and he performs salah in the masjid, finish, this is now categorized as a masjid. So that is the opening of a masjid. That a person comes into the masjid and he performs salah in the masjid, that is the opening of a masjid. So there is no such a thing as opening of a masjid. Imam Abu Yusuf rahmatullahi alayhi has gone one step further. And Imam Abu Yusuf rahmatullahi alayhi says, what is the opening of a masjid? He says the moment a person says, Ja'altuhu masjida, that this land of mine, I have made it a masjid. He said this has become a masjid immediately. There is no such a thing as opening of a masjid in our deen. So many a times a masjid is built. And a 5-star masjid, mashallah, no problem. By all means that can be done. But at the time, now we have, when we're opening that masjid, now we're calling speakers to come and speak. And now a person, he starts getting happy. And he wants the praises of people that, look, we as the mutawallis, what type of a masjid we have built. Now the ikhlas of a person is lost. So all that effort that he has made in the opening of that masjid, all that effort now goes down the drain just because we wanted to hear the praises of people. So see how shaitan plays with a person. At the Darul Ulooms, when the academic year comes to an end, they have a jalsa. What is the objective of that jalsa? The objective of a jalsa at the end of the academic year is to join the people with Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. That is the actual objective of a jalsa that takes place. And the lessons that we have forgotten in our life, that lessons we must be reminded again, that what is our objective, why we have come into the world, the lessons that we have learned in our life and we've forgotten, this must be reminded to a person. This must be put before a person that this is your objective in this world. And the greatness of the madrasa and the Darul Ulooms must be instilled into the hearts of people. This is the objective of a jalsa. But now when we have a jalsa, now a person or the institute or the principal of the institute, his objective now, for example, becomes that I want to get sponsors for my madrasa. Finish. He has lost the purpose. If his intention was sponsors, or to say so many students now have come to my Darul Uloom, or the teaching in my Darul Uloom is of a very, very high level. This is what he wants to prove to the people. So the objective has been lost. All the reward that he is supposed to get, all that reward is now lost. So how particular a person should be of his ikhlas at every moment and at all times. As Shah Waliullah Sahib rahmatullahi alayhi mentioned, he says, what is the sign of ikhlas? That Allah Ta'ala has blessed a person with ikhlas. He says, this person, he gets close to Allah Ta'ala very quickly. A person that has ikhlas in his life, very, very quickly, a person, he will reach Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. He will gain the closeness of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So when a person is gaining that closeness to Allah, that is an indication that he's got ikhlas. And the second thing he says, that a person will have conviction in the reward of Allah Ta'ala. Now when you got conviction, Allah Ta'ala is going to reward me, I'm going to get my reward by Allah. Now we don't look for the praises of people. As Zunnun Misri rahmatullahi alayhi, he mentioned, many people we read wazaif, and we should read wazaif. Every person should have certain wazaif that he should read every morning and every evening also. And sometimes when a person has difficulties in his life, he has problems in his life, then there are certain extra wazaif that a person reads. Like in Ramadan, we mentioned the 100,000 astaghfirullah, and many people have read it also. So the Zunnun Misri rahmatullahi alayhi says that these wazaif that you read, he says it should not be a matter of just completing numbers, that I need to complete this 100,000 or I need to complete this 125,000. That shouldn't be the maqsad. But he says when reading the wazifa also, at that time make a niyat that, Wallah, I'm reading this for your pleasure. And Ya Allah, whatever effect is required, you put the effect in it. So the niyat of a person mustn't change there also, that the wazifa that I'm reading, that is also for Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And the second thing, Hazrat Zunnun Misi Rahmatullah Alayhi mentioned, he said, don't look for the praises of people, and don't become happy with the praises of people. Where is the praises of people going to help us? Today people, they like you, they will put you above the heavens also. They will take you right to the top. And tomorrow the very same people, if they have to dislike you, they will put you under the ground also. So don't wait for the praises of people. Whatever we do, do it for the pleasure of Allah Ta'ala. The praises of people and objection of people, this shouldn't worry us. The maqsood is Allah Ta'ala. The objective is Allah. My Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala must be happy with me. As Maulana Meet Sahib, he gives an example of this. He says a person that is evil, he says by the praises of somebody, you're not going to become good. Somebody says, oh mashallah, what a good man you are. But in reality, you're not a good man. So you're not going to become a good man. And then he gives an example. He says that a person, he got a car. Now the car is troubling him all the time. He's more under the car than inside the car. So finally what he decides, he said, let me take it to the auctioneer. And let's tell the auctioneer now to auction the car. So he took the car to the auctioneer. So the auctioneer put the car on his floor. And he starts auctioning the car. So he says, this car is such a good car. That's the job of the auctioneer now, to praise the car. This is such a good car. This is the speed that this car can travel. It is so light on consumption. Only after 25,000 kilometers you service the car. Very economical car. So the man who was selling the car, who brought it to the auctioneer, he says, no, give me back my car. I want my car. So the auctioneer said, but you know how much of problems you're having with the car. So much of trouble you're having with the car. You brought it to auction it. Now you're saying you want the car back. So he says that when you praised the car so much that I got such a good car, then rather give the car back to me, I'll keep my car. So this is our position. That many a time we get taken away. Somebody just praises us a little bit, just pats us on the back a little bit, and we become happy. Now that is not something what we must look for. We must look for the pleasure of Allah Ta'ala. If Allah Ta'ala is happy with us, then this is the greatest thing. And when this ikhlas is not embedded, is not instilled in the heart of a person, then very soon a person, he slips, and very soon a person, he falls. We'll terminate on this one incident that has been mentioned in the kitab. Sheikh Saadi Rahmatullah Alayhi has mentioned this incident. So he says there was one person, he was an abid, a person that made the ibadah of Allah Ta'ala. So he was living in the jungle, and he used to make his ibadah of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala in the jungle continuously. And what he used to eat was the leaves from the tree. Whatever leaves were on the tree, he would take that leaves, and that was the food of this person. With a lot of ikhlas, he made the ibadah of Allah Ta'ala. So one day the king decided that I want to go and visit this abid. So the king, he went with his minister, he went to visit this abid. When he met this worshipper, he said, see, I have a proposal for you. That come to the town and live in the town. I will give you a nice comfortable house. You will be able to make your ibadah of Allah Ta'ala, and you'll have no worry whatsoever. Everything will be taken care of. You just come to the town and you make the ibadah of Allah Ta'ala. The second benefit of this is, people will come and visit you. When people come, they will see that how you are making the ibadah of Allah, the desire to emulate and to follow you will come into their heart as well. So this person, he said, he immediately turned his head away. He said, no, I'm not interested in this. And he carried on with his ibadah. So then the minister of the king, he went forward. So the minister told him, he said, see, we have to listen to the king. At least think of what the king is saying. You come to the town and live for a few days in the town. If you're not happy in the town, you're not comfortable with the place that the king has provided you with, then leave the place and you come back to the jungle and you carry on with your ibadat. So this now appealed to him, this tempted him. So the sweet talk, which Sheikh Saadi Rahmatullah Alayhi says, the sweet talk now tempted this person. And he says many a times a person, he goes to his sheikh, maybe his sheikh is a very pious person, but because he goes to the sweet talk to the sheikh, and he explains to the sheikh that do it this way and do it that way, many a time the sheikh also listens and the sheikh also falls. And sometimes the sheikh is not a genuine sheikh. If he's not a genuine person, he many a times, he sweet talks the murid and he takes all the dunya away from the murid. And the murid doesn't get anywhere also. So nevertheless, so he listened to the minister. So he said, okay. So he joined the king and he came to the town. When he came to the town, the king gave him a beautiful palace. And in that palace, he gave him the best of clothing. The best of food was served to him every day. And the best of itar was given to him. So now he started eating good food. He started wearing good clothing. He started applying itar. Whereas in the jungle, what type of a life he was living. So he had everything. And on top of that, the king gave him a young boy and a young girl. And both the young boy and the young woman, they were now making the khidmat of this person. So all that spirituality that he acquired in the jungle, everything was lost. See, when that ikhlas went, the ikhlas was tempered with, everything was lost. So after some time, one day the king said, let me go and visit this particular person. So the king came to visit him. So when the king came to visit him, then the king saw that he's resting and he's got a pillow filled with feathers in it. So it was made of feathers and he was reclining on this pillow. And one of the servants of the palace, they were fanning this particular person. So the king looked at him, his face was a little red, became a little fair now. His complexion became fair, so he's looking good. So the king became very happy that no, he's eating well, he's looking good also. So the king discussed some matters in regards to deen with this particular person. So after he discussed, then the king told him two things. He said that there are two groups of people that I have extreme love for. So he said one is the group of the ulama, that I have a lot of love for the ulama. And I don't mind spending on the ulama. And the second group of people that I have great love for is the Sufis, like him. Like the Sufis, I love them and I don't mind doing anything for the Sufis as well. So the minister that was there, perhaps he was the same minister that invited him and told him come to stay in the town. So the minister that was there, the minister, he realized that the king is in error. The king is looking at outwardly how this person has benefited. But the king hasn't realized that he has lost everything. So then he told the king, he tells the king in his words now, he says that the ulama, spend your money on the ulama. He says, why? Because they will propagate deen, other people will take lesson and they will also start propagating deen. But the Sufis, don't spend your money on them. Because when you're going to spend your money on the Sufis, then that life which Allah Ta'ala had given them, many a times they lose the ikhlas and that entire life of a person is destroyed. So see, when the ikhlas of a person, imagine a person, whole life is doing amal. Whole life a person is doing good deeds. And at the time of death, before death, all that ikhlas of a person is destroyed. Or in his life, all that ikhlas is destroyed. When we come before Allah Ta'ala, what will be our position? So all the time a person needs to remind himself. He needs to always give himself this lesson. That who am I doing this amal for? Immediately ask Allah Ta'ala, oh Allah, give me tawfiq. Let me do it solely for you. Oh Allah, if any pride has come in, Ya Allah, or I've done it to show anybody, Ya Allah, you forgive me. And when that pride comes in, we do it riyah to show somebody, then that amal is lost, the reward is lost. So our Shaykh explained that Allah Ta'ala has the full power of giving you back the reward of that amal. So at that time when we make tawbah, ask Allah Ta'ala that, Allah, whatever I have lost because of showing others, because of pride, and it happens to ourselves also, happens to everybody. So we make dua, Allah grant all that back to us, and Allah Ta'ala will give us the reward again through His fazl and through His karam. Allah Ta'ala give us tawfiq, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا مولانا محمد وبارك وسلم فاذكروني أذكركم أنا جليس من ذكرني दिल मेरा हो जाए एक मैदान वो तू ही तो हो तू ही तो हो तू ही तो और मेरे तन में बजाए आब वगिल दर्द दिल हो दर्द दिल हो दर्द दिल गैर से बिल्कुल ही उठ जाए नजर तू ही तो आए नजर दे जिधर ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह मुहम्मदुर रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह 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 मुहम्मदुर रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम इलाही दिल में मेरे गैर का असर न रहे सिवाय तेरे किसी पर मेरी नजर न रहे तू कर बेखबर सारी खबरों से मुझको इलाही रहूं खबरदार तेरा ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم इलाही आता हो ज़र्रे दर्द दिल के मरता है बेदर्द बीमार तेरा कोई तुझसे कुछ चाहता है मैं तुझसे हूँ या रब तलबगार तेरा नहीं दोनों आलम से कुछ मुझको मतलब तू मतलूब मैं हूँ तालिब तेरा उठा गम रख उम्मीद इमदाद हक से तुझे गम है क्या لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم अल्लाह अल्लाह कैसा प्यारा नाम है, आशिकों का मीना और जाम है। अल्लाह जल्ल जलालुहु ताला शानुहु। अल्लाह 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 इचे शिरीन अस्तेनाम शीरो शक्कर मी शवद जानम तमाम। अल्लाह 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 अल्लाह। अपने मिलने का पता कोई निशा तू बता दे मुझको ए रब्बे जहां। अल्लाह 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 जल्ल जलालुहु। اللهم لك الحمد كله ولك الشكر كله ولك الملك كله وإليك يرجع الأمر كله. اللهم لا نحصي ثناء عليك أنت كما أثنيت على نفسك. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد كلما ذكره الذاكرون وكلما غفل عن ذكره الغافلون. اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها فأنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها. اللهم ارحمنا بترك المعاصي ولا تشقنا بمعصيتك. جزى الله عنا محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم بما هو أهله. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله.